Yo, what's up, guys? How's it going? Enrique here. This is Easy Things to Draw. Easy Things to Draw. Today we're gonna go over how to draw a Boo from Super Mario Brothers. I'm on this kind of Super Mario Brothers train. Like I said, I'm gonna be throwing in some other stuff like critiques, and I'm gonna throw in these questionnaires, stuff like that. I'll throw in other characters, but this is basically Mario Brothers week, essentially. Um, so, yeah, like I said, we're gonna draw the Boo, and let me show you what I'm gonna be using. I'm using this Copic marker. This Copic marker is semi-expensive. It came with a set. Do you need it? You don't absolutely need it. You don't. You really don't. I just do it because they're good quality markers and you can refill them, You can use a Sharpie if you want. This one, the cool thing about it is a little bit, we call it flexible in the way that it has this kind of, see how that has that kind of cut off fat end, you know what I mean? So you can make big fat lines. And then you also have this. It's kind of a semi-brush end with like a tip, almost like a pen. But you have that kind of flexibility with that. That's why it's expensive. Like I said, you don't need it, but if you want it, it's Copic marker. It's a 100 black. I don't know why they have 100. That's the class. That's what they classify it as. Then we're gonna use colored pencils. These colored pencils are crapola. These are not good. Sorry about the bad language, but they anger me. So, but this is the only thing I got. I'm poor. It's just how it rolls. I would love like some Prismacolor colored pencils, but I do not have the moolah for that right now. So I'm using these, and this is Rose Art brand, and they're good enough. I think it also serves as a good example. Like sometimes it doesn't matter what you use. Sometimes. So, which is funny. There's a video about that. Okay, so anyways, let me tell you the colors we're gonna use. I'm gonna use orange, black, blue, which for whatever reason looks very aqua. That looks really weird, and that's a good example of like what's going on. And then this thing called ocean blue. That one looks alright. And then poppy, which looks basically red. I thought that was red actually when I selected it. And this is just gonna be my pencil to actually use for the outline. So let's get started. Let's not delay anymore. Put this side over here. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my regular pencil. Pencil don't matter. I mean, this is just a regular pencil because I'm doing the outline with. As you know, that part of it doesn't matter. We're going to do round. Round boos are very circular. You know what I mean? Very, very circular. They're just the ghosts that float around the house, in like Mario 64 and all these other, pretty much a bunch of Mario games. But that was where I first, that's kind of where I first was creeped out by them, was seeing them in Mario 64. Okay, let me see. Drawing a circle. The smile is a regular smile. It's essentially a half moon kind of thing going on. And it's pretty big across the mouth. It's pretty big across him. It's pretty basic. One thing that kind of make him stand out is, other than a circle, is that he has a tiny little tail. I guess which ghosts very invariably have in all kinds of stuff. Have no feet. They have this little tail thing going on. And like I said, I'm drawing dark and kind of reckless because I'm going to put a piece of paper over this. And he's got little tiny nubs for hands. But like I was saying earlier, my first introduction to these guys was Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. And they scared me a lot, It was just weird because I was going through these normal levels and then now they're infested with ghosts. And that scared me. It did scare me, Sorry. I was a little kid. And they have this kind of like W shape on their forehead sometimes. Just kind of like that eyebrow section of it. I guess so the eyes just won't be floating there. And that's kind of the general proportion of the Boo, really. Even this one's a little kind of fatter than normal. I could kind of cut a little bit off the back over here. Make him lose a little bit of weight. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this sheet of paper and I'm going to slide it under the other sheet of paper as soon as sorry about that, technical difficulty. See, I'm going to do this so that I have kind of a basis for my proportion. I don't have to do my proportion all over again. You know what I mean? My proportion is just the hardest. In my opinion, the proportion is kind of the hardest part. So now that I don't have that out of the way, I could mess up on this top layer of paper, and I could just switch that top layer. That's kind of the idea behind that. And then eventually, when you draw these things second nature, you won't really need even to do an underlay. You'll just go into it. That's when it's intuitive. You know what I mean? But for now, these things are not intuitive to most people because we're learning to draw these things. So I'm gonna go take the marker now, and I'm gonna go to the flat side, and I'm gonna do basically the hardest stroke of the whole drawing because this guy's basically mostly one giant stroke. Gonna grab this, follow the line of the whole circle, close it up. And that is going to be hard. That is going to be hard. Kind of move your hand around to get your arm into it. But like I said, if we mess up, we'll do another one. That's good enough. That works. I mean, definitely get that. A little shaky there, but, you know, it's definitely good enough. And then I will get his little nubs. Get his other nub. Made it a little bit bigger actually than what I traced. What I put underneath is really just an idea. I don't have to stick to it, you know. I'm gonna grab the smaller end now. Pull that back. Pull that up there. I forgot to mention the teeth actually. He has sharp teeth. That might be why they creeped me out as a kid. Tongue, connect it back here. Be careful. This thing's a little. Be careful with a marker. Like I said, any marker really. See how that has that bleeding right there? I don't think you can see it through the camera. But if you, let's say you're pulling a line, and let's say you pause for a second, then keep pulling it. It'll have this big blotch. You know what I'm talking about if you use a marker. So just be careful of that. That's why you gotta kind of move. You don't have to move swiftly, you know, but you can move swiftly enough. That line up there. I want to leave a little bit right there for the little shine on his eye. Little shine on his eye. And that's it for the marker. What I was doing with the other ones, I was putting a much bolder line on the outside. Actually, I'm going to try that here. Even though, like I said, I already struggled with that. I was going to say I'm not going to do it, because I struggled so much with that outer border, but I'm going to try it here. And I am kind of pulling this one a little bit. I'm trying to be as straight as I can with it. Oh man, I got to be super careful. And like I said, you don't have to cherish them that much. I'm not doing this for a job. And if I, you know, sorry. One second. See that line right here? That's too thick right there. I messed up. Let me see how it looks through the camera. See, that line's a little too big. The only thing I could do is I could try to even out into the rest of it, maybe. I'm just gonna try to balance out the rest of it, see if I can not make it stand out too much. But as you guys know from my past videos, I like the boulder line on the outside, kind of like that Paper Mario look. It just makes things look nicer, in my opinion. It's just purely my opinion, you know? And it makes things look just prettier. I don't know, it just makes the stuff on the inside look a little more complicated. That is too thick, but I'm going to have to leave it. That's a good example of a mistake. But whatever, I got to move on. So that's it for this. Let's go into the coloring. Really the most color he has is in his mouth, you know? It's hold on one second. I'm gonna take this poppy, you know, this is poppy, it's just red, and then I'm gonna, you know, fill out the inside of his mouth. Yeah, that is so red. Let me see. I don't know what poppy is. Now let me see. Let me fill this in here. There's no particular way I'm filling it out. I'm kind of going with a form a little bit, you know, I'm trying to pull my lines, but in reality, it's gonna kind of blend all together. But like I said, it's not too crazy this one because he's so, you know, this character is almost entirely white. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna go right there. I'm gonna go lighter on the tip of the tongue here, just a little bit lighter. See, I'm going really dark. I'm pushing really hard on the sides of the mouth here, and in the middle, I'm just gonna kind of leave it a little bit lighter, like there's a light source hitting it. And what I'm gonna do with that is, one moment, I'm gonna sharpen this. As I'm gonna take my orange, and then I'm gonna try to push into that center part. It just kind of gives it a little bit more, like the colors are mixing, like he's really got some blood flow in there. It doesn't, doesn't give it a massively different effect on this drawing, honestly. But try it out. Try mixing colors like that. Have one color blend into the other. See how that works. Usually, like in a human face, you do that because there's blood flowing through your body. You know what I mean? This guy doesn't really have that. Obviously, he's dead. So, I mean, he's dead, right? They're Boo ghosts. Actually, I don't really know their stories, really. I know they're ghosts, but I'm assuming they were human at one point, which is weird. Or they were some sort of Koopa Troopas or something. Filling in the back here. The difference in the back is I'm going to continue with this poppy color. And I'm going to grab a black now because the inner depths of his mouth, the deeper you get in there, the less light there is in his mouth. I'm going to go over that with black. And same thing that goes with the under kind of the roof of his mouth, Think about how much light would get into his mouth in reality, you know what I mean? Probably not a whole lot. And yeah, that'd be fine there. You could leave it like that, or maybe make this, get some more red, some poppy, fill that in a little bit more. Either way. Alright, so the cool part is you're almost done because he is very white. He's very white. So I'm going to grab the blue, or the ocean blue. No, I'm going to grab the regular blue actually for, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to grab the ocean blue. I wanted more like kind of a sky blue. And this ocean blue is much more sky blue than the actual blue, so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave kind of a space, kind of like this reflected light on the ground, like I've been doing with the other tutorials. Leave kind of a space, like a rim light from the floor. So like if there's light coming from up top, let's say there's light coming from top, and there's light coming from, let's say the sunlight, right? Almost everything is lit from above. Now, the more light that comes down, right? Let's say the light that misses him. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah. Let's say the light. I don't want to do it too dark, but all right, I'll do it dark. The light that comes down on this character, right? He's gonna get light, but when it hits the floor, light tends to bounce off what it hits. So it's gonna bounce off the floor, and it's gonna come right back up into the character, and that's why you have kind of these. He's not totally all dark down here. You know what I mean? People tend to add some sort of secondary light source which is the floor. So that's kind of usually the way I'm thinking. Even though this is an exaggerated, cartoony version of reality, I still want to do that. You can or can't do that. That's a decision that, that's a decision thing. That's a style thing. I choose to do it. I just think it looks pretty nice to do that rim light on the bottom. But that's the rationale of why I do that. The concepts, some of them don't have it, some of them do. It's really, I feel like it's an artist thing or an art director thing, whatever they kind of did at the time. Whatever they're doing at the moment. I'm going with this here. I kind of like this blue. I like it better than the kind of sometimes its colors are kind of just straight up gray. Personally, I think blue just looks richer. And putting that kind of around here, toward the bottom, like I said, but leaving a little bit of rim. And remember I'm not going down with a hard side of my pencil here. I'm going down with the side of my pencil. Side of my pencil. You know what I mean? I'm trying to gradate it, get it from dark here and make it as light as I can, because this is a rounded object, right? He's a round dude. So round it, try to make it as smooth as you can. If you can't make it totally smooth, it's fine. Just practice on stuff. Practice on boxes. Practice on spheres, you know what I mean? Spheres. Practice drawing spheres online. And I'm going to put extra little shadow here for his little arm. Might cause a little shadow. Let me see. And you can do this all the way up here. to some extent. And the light bounces off the wall or something. I think what scared me so much of the game was because they'd materialize out of nowhere, at least in the Mario 64 version. They would just come out of nowhere, and it would freak me out. You can do it at the. I want to do it at the front, to balance it out. And like I said, you can add it more places if you want. It's a decision thing. You can add it over here in the eyebrows. You know what I mean? Be careful about overdoing it, of course. You know. So, anyways, guys, that's about it. At least for the demo. These are the tools that I had used over here. I appreciate you guys watching. Please like the video if you did learn anything, or you just enjoyed me drawing. Whoops, sorry. Or just enjoyed me drawing. Thanks a lot, guys. Subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you guys watching. There's going to be a whole lot more of this to come. And please, also, keep throwing me ideas. I am using a lot of the ideas that you guys throw at me. So, in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.